In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
The Indiana Fever were unstoppable. They just crushed Peg Brewers and the Dallas Wings. They dominated the Minnesota Lynx for their first Commissioner's Cup championship. They absolutely destroyed A.J. Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces. The momentum was building. Everyone expected them to handle the Los Angeles Sparks even without Caitlin Clark. The Sparks are literally one of the worst teams in the WNBA. But what happened? Next will make your blood boil. The refs made calls so bad that Stephanie White could only say 5 words that revealed everything wrong with this league. Let us know down in the comments below what you think of the WNBA referees. Let's go.
Should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
The Fever walked into this game missing their biggest star, but nobody expected what happened next. Caitlin Clark was sidelined with a left groin injury. This marked her 5th straight game on the bench. The team's entire offensive flow depends on Clark's playmaking ability. Without her court vision and scoring threat, the Fever became a complete different team.
Finding out this morning that we probably need to hold out again today. It really is a day-to-day thing. And I think for us, making sure that we're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness. It's anybody who's had some of these types of injuries understand that sometimes it's a process. She's a quick healer, and she's been doing everything that she can to get back on the floor. So, we just want to make sure that we're hypersensitive to the big picture.
But that's not all. Daris Dantas was representing her country in the FIA America. Her absence meant the Fever had to scramble their rotations. The team lost another key contributor who brings seasoned experience off the bench. Then Kamithi, shocking news that Dana Bonner had quit the team entirely. 3 major pieces gone in one devastating blow. Here's where it gets interesting. Despite being this wounded, the Fever were still heavy favorites. ESPN's matchup predictor gave them a 72.9% chance of victory. MGM had them favored by 6.5 points. Everyone expected their remaining talent to carry them through this game. The logic seems simple. The Sparks are literally one of the worst teams in the WNBA. They've struggled all season long. The Fever had just completed that incredibly 3-game winning streak. Aaliyah Boston was playing phenomenal basketball. Kelsey Mitchell was stepping up. As a leader, the team chemistry looked solid during their domination.
Howard looking backdoor for Mitchell. Not there. Shot clock down to 7. McDonald feed inside, and it's Howard for 2. It's good record.
But something was brewing beneath the surface. The Fever's playing pace had slowed dramatically with Clark. They weren't moving the ball with the same energy. Boston wasn't getting enough touches to dominate in the paint like she can. The offense that worked so perfectly with Clark running the show started breaking down. The Fever still had multiple star-caliber players. The Sparks were fighting just to stay competitive as nights. How could Indiana possibly lose this game?
Get it. Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson. Wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. Touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game. And guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? A phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, the physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul.
The expectations were everyone thought raw talent would overcome the missing pieces. The Fever had proven they could win big games. They had championship-level players still on the court. The Sparks were supposed to be the prey for a team. With Indiana's streaming firepower, this perfect storm of missing pieces created the exact conditions for disaster. The team chemistry that looked so strong during their winning streak was built around Clark's leadership. Without her organizing the offense, cracks started showing. The role players who thrived in their defined spots suddenly had to do more. The pressure mounted as the game began with all these handicaps weighing them down.
What does it take to get a team to be more consistent, especially from you on the coaching side of things?
Yeah, I think a couple things. There's always got to be a high attention to knowing personnel. Oftentimes, you don't get a lot of practice time, and so going over a lot of their sets, which you do, but at the end of the day, making sure we know our personnel, who we're going to run off the three-point line, what we're willing to give up. We've got to make sure that there's a high attention to detail there.
Kelsey Mitchell stepped up huge in Clark's absence. She dropped 19 points and nailed 3 three-pointers when Thedham needed scoring desperately. Mitchell reached a massive milestone, too, playing her 251st game for the Fever. Only Tama Catchings has played more games in franchise history. Mitchell's leadership showed through the entire game as she kept the Fever competitive against a team they should have beaten easily.
Here's Mitchell off the screen, but can't connect on the three. Boston offensive rebound, rolls it in and a foul. The two bigs bring the ball up the floor, and Hamby wasn't ready for that.
How about that change of pace and burst like a guard, gets downhill to the rim.
But that's not all. Natasha Howard brought her veteran presence and absolutely lit up the scoreboard. She finished with 21 points and 9 rebounds in a near double-double performance. Howard shot an incredible of 11 from the field, of 2 from three-point range. Shenik down 4 of 6 free throws and provided crucial scoring on both ends. Off-court.
Lob inside. Boston too far underneath. Shot clock down to 5. Kick out Mitchell. Oh, yes!
These 3 players carried the entire team on their backs. They were putting up championship-level numbers against a team that was supposed to fold under pressure. Boston controlled the paint like the all-star she is. Mitchell hit clutch shots that kept the Fever in striking distance. Howard used her experience to make plays that younger players simply can't make. Picture this. Boston was dominating inside. Mitchell was hitting shots from everywhere. Howard was making veteran plays that kept hope alive. The comeback was right there for the taking. The crowd could feel it.
Busted them all up. We went to the same high school.
Howard left alone. Answers with a 3.
Here's where it gets interesting. Their individual brilliance is being overshadowed by absolutely horrible officiating. The refs made Califter call that went against the Fever. Sophie Cunningham got grabbed by the neck and no foul was called. Instead, the refs awarded a jump ball.
LA is so dangerous. They don't look like a 5-win team to me.
Oh, and there's Tipson sending it back.
The controversial calls piled up throughout final minutes when the game was on the line. You could see the frustration building on the court. These players were giving everything they had. Boston was playing at an elite level. Michelle was hitting shots that should have won the game. Howard was.
Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player. Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one and they called a foul on her. And this is 4th quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up. Lexi Hall can't believe it. That's a foul. The ref was right there in front of her. And then here we go. And they kept McDonald in foul trouble the entire game. There's 2 in a row where she didn't do anything. Look at that. Just had her arms in the air, but they gave, this is the 4th quarter. And they just kept giving every single call. I like Leah Boston finally getting pissed off. Then they call this away from the ball in the 4th quarter. Nothing going on. Just to put him at the line. And then Kelsey Plum, another one. But when Howard drives and gets slashed across the face, no foul, just...
After watching her team fight so hard only Tolos in heartbreaking fashion, Stephanie White finally spoke. The post-game press conference was tense. You could see the frustration written all over White's face. She had just watched her players give everything they had. Boston dominated inside. Mitchell hit clutch shots. Howard made veteran plays, but it still wasn't enough. The reporters waited for her response. White is known for being composed and professional. She always chooses her words carefully. Booth this time was different. This loss hit harder than most.
And look, there are going to be days where you make shots and miss shots. I mean, that's part of it. I thought, AB had a really good look at the end. And so sometimes it just doesn't fall your way. So we're looking more about execution. I didn't feel like our execution was all that good at the end. I felt like in our reset timeout, it wasn't very good either. And, that's on us, continuing to make sure that we are going over that, as often as possible when we have our practice time, and making sure that we're sharp in those areas.
Here's where it gets interesting. White delivered her response in just 5 powerful words. We didn't get the calls. That was it. 5 words that said absolutely everything about what happened in those final minutes. The frustration was clear. The disappointment was obvious. White had watched her team get robbed of a victory they deserved. Let's talk about the specific calls that changed everything. Sophie Cunningham got grabbed by the refs, called a jump ball instead of a foul. That's not basketball. That's favoritism toward the Spox. Aaliyah Boston kept getting called 4 touch fouls while the Spox got away with much more physical play. The double standard was obvious to everyone watching.
Here is Boston on a handoff to Cunningham. Head full of steam to the rim. And a foul. Cunningham and 1.
I mean, this is just a really good screen by Boston to give her a step. The switch. Sophie's having a good time.
This devastating loss just proves something incredible about the Fever championship potential. Think about what just happened here. The Fever were missing 3 key players and still nearly beat a team they should have destroyed. That's not weakness. That's pure strength showing through adversity. Here's where it gets interesting. Missing Clark, Dantas and Bonner should have been a death sentence against any WNBA team, but the Fever stayed competitive for 40 minutes. Clark Streddern is right around the corner. She's been participating in drills and sitting on the bench during games. Coach Whitey's prioritizing her long-term health. But Clark could return as early as Wednesday against the Golden State Val. Picture this lineup when she's back.